Welcome back to the channel today, guys. Now, we're going to move on to the second show that I wanted to talk with you guys about this week, and that would be Dead Mount Death Parade. Now, I wanted to follow up on this show after it had a really interesting start last week, and man, I gotta be honest, this episode was not how I was expecting it to be. But not in a bad way. It was far more jokey than I initially thought it would be. The scene with him just playing with the body, I had no clue how to feel. Like, it's really morbid, but it's kind of funny at the same time. I had no clue how to feel. Now, this episode really dives into our characters and really paints a pretty clear picture for us of what we can expect from this show. And I'm here for it. I enjoyed it. So let's just get into it and talk about Dead Mount Death Play episode 2 today, because it's quite an interesting one. Now, I know I said that this episode had more comedy in it than I initially thought, but we're going to start our episode off pretty somberly as we just hear, "I desired peace. Those born with the evil eye, able to see shades, cannot hope for a peaceful life. After my parents sold me to the court sorcerers, I strode the battlefield as a necromancer. But I always wished to live quietly. I desired peace." And as we see how much of a good guy he really was deep down, he continues and says, "I desired peace, even if it was false. I simply longed for the peaceful life I could only dimly recall." And it's here as we see that he was able to find just a little sliver of peace, and even maybe a little bit of love. We find out that reality is very cold. Extremely, unapologetically, bitterly cold. As we hear, "The more I sought peace, the more distant it became. I enacted my vengeance then and there, and I played it out over the course of a century." As we see that he showed them no mercy whatsoever. As we hear, "Soon, my abandoned coal mine was a labyrinth crawling with corpses. Yet even so, I desired peace. So I waited for decades, then centuries. I could no longer die a natural death, so I awaited the coming of one who could slay me. And when that happened, my secret art of reincarnation succeeded." Now, I even remember saying in my first episode, guys, that throughout the episode, he didn't feel like completely evil. He felt like he's really a good guy pushed to do bad things. And this really solidified that right here. But immediately after this scene, as we transition back to the present, we see him just playing around with the corpse. And I had no clue how to feel about this when I first watched it. Looking back on it now, it's a little funny, but it's kind of weird too. And it's here once he's done playing ragdoll, he has to try to figure out what to do. As he says, "Man, I killed her before I could even ask her what continent I'm on, huh? I can't exactly lead a peaceful life if I'm on the run from the city watch, can I? I did just murder somebody." And it's here we see, despite all the hardships he's faced over the course of his life, we see that the corpse god, aka Polka, is a bit of a goofball at the same time. I kind of like the difference. Now, before we get too much farther in this review, and frankly, I forget to mention it, I just want to kind of mention to you guys that the opening for this show is not that bad, honestly. I kind of like it. I think it fits the show pretty well. We've had a lot of really good openings this season, I gotta say. So now that we've gone into Polka's backstory a little bit and see what exactly makes him tick, it's time to do the same with Misaki, actually. As we see that even at a young age, she was raised by loving parents who wanted nothing but the best for her and treated her extremely well. And we quickly see that happiness is quickly and brutally taken from her. And we see how in this moment, something just snaps in her mind. It's here as we transition to years later. We see that she has frankly gone insane, as she is now Zaki the killer, and she takes delight in killing the scum of this world. As we see, she actually tracks down the man that killed her parents and brutally kills him. But it's not about revenge with her. You see, when that event happened years ago and she saw her parents murdered, when I said something snapped, what that was is she thought to herself, is killing people really that fun? As she even says, I kill killers because it seems like fun. Nothing more. But as she's killing him, she starts thinking to herself that, I don't just kill bad people, but now that you mention it, I never checked if I could kill a good person, though. And it's here we see that this is the reason she took the job to kill Polka to begin with. This thought, this question she asked herself. She wanted to test that theory, if she could kill a good person. And after watching episode 1, we all know she can. And it's here we see that even after that, even after her confirming to herself that, yeah, I'm scum, I actually am scum at the end of the day, she decides that she'd be better off dead and actually tries to kill herself right here, claiming that having her around won't make anybody happy. As we see that she is clearly a girl with a lot of trauma and pain in her heart. And she has no way to really express it besides to be a killer. And it's here, right as she's trying to kill herself, she gets a call about one final mission, telling her that, yeah, the kid whose throat you just slit, he's walking around town like nothing happened. You failed. And the rest from this point on is history. We know how events play out. Because it's here as we transition to her opening her eyes again. We see that she is alive once again. Well, kind of. Because it's here as we look around the room, we see that they're surrounded by armed gunmen. As we see a woman named Clarissa leading them. As we see her grab Masaki and says, yep, you're cold all right, and you have no pulse whatsoever. Congratulations, you're 100% dead. As Polka adds, you are now a zombie. But before we get into this, let's back it up a bit and go back to when Clarissa first came onto the scene and discovered this crazy thing that just happened. As she says, sorry to interrupt your date, Polka, but before I introduce myself, I'd like to ask you a question. You want to explain what's going on here? As Polka tells her flat out, I'm about to fix her, as he starts healing the wound. Once he finishes, he tells them she'll wake up soon. But now, who are all of you people? As we have a little bit of a standoff right here. And it's here Clarissa says, we're friends with Masaki over there. We came to finish her job and avenge her. Or at least, that was the plan. As she asks Polka, can I take it that she's still alive right now? As he tells her, that's a little bit of a tricky question. As he explains that I didn't do much, but her brain and soul are intact, and I mended her body. She just needs a sorcerer to cast resurrection magic on her when she wakes up. And upon saying that, they are immediately confused. This is the real world, bro. There's no resurrection magic. Even Clarissa's just like, you just said magic. What? Wait, what? What? Upon realizing they don't know what the fuck he's talking about, Polka says, does this country have magic at all? As Clarissa says, nah, you're the first I've ever seen. No one has arms growing out of magic portals over here, man. And I kind of love the fact that after he realizes that they think he's crazy, he just tries to play it off like, yeah, you guys are having a mass hallucination right now. This isn't real. Ooh. As Clarissa says, you really think you can fool us with that? As Polka says, you know, hallucinations are no laughing matter, ma'am. But it's here we realize that he wasn't joking about what he was saying. You need to forget. As he adds, you know, I don't have a grasp of just how fragile you all are. It'd be a shame if you did something stupid here. As Clarissa tells him, alright, just give me a second to figure out what we're gonna do. Just wait right there. But it's here as if to cut the tension with a knife. We suddenly hear police sirens. And everything gets thrown out of whack. As our man in the chair, Takumi, says, there's a fire in a Sharkuzawa building. I'll send you the camera feed now. And upon looking at the blaze, she says, you know, I'm concerned for the children, but I suppose we'll have to leave this to the fire department. And it's in this moment that the show takes the turn that I was talking about that I was not expecting. As we see that Polka is very interested in what's going on here. As he says, what did that panel show? And as she shows him the fire, he remembers her mentioning that children are trapped in it. As she says, there's an unlicensed nursery in the Sharkuzawa building. It looks after Yakuza orphans and kids whose mothers work the nightlife. And upon hearing this, Polka says instantly, please take me there immediately. And naturally, they're a little confused by this in this situation. As Clarissa says, if you don't know the way, they have to be strangers to you, right? Why do you care? But it's here as we see the events of his past unfold again. He says, I've been burned a number of times in my life. It's quite painful. Children should not suffer such agonies. As Clarissa says, fine. Takumi, show him the way. And as we transition to the next scene, I gotta keep it a buck with you guys. This shit is so goofy. As they're traveling to the building, this man is just swinging around the city with these skeleton arms like Spider-Man, dude. It looks really silly. I laughed pretty hard when I first saw this. But it's here as we get to the scene is when the truly interesting part happens. Because it's here as he notices that the children are still alive in the building. Not caring about who's there or anything like that, he plunges himself straight into the fire. And as he gets inside, he sees the spirits of the parents that passed away of these children in the fire. As we see, he's able to turn their corpses into skeletons and take their life force that's still hanging here and put it inside of the skeletons. As we see, he uses them to rescue the children from the fire. I actually really like this scene, but this scene is so bittersweet. Because as the girl opens her eyes, she sees her father's the one that saved her. But we all know that he's really dead. So this is a touching but extremely bittersweet scene. But despite all that, he saves all their lives right here. This man's kind of like an undead superhero right here. It's kind of wild and certainly not the thing I thought was going to be happening. And it's here as we transition to Takumi. He confirms that everyone made it out of the building okay. But is kind of flabbergasted that he would do this in front of a crowd, which is wild. He brought people back to life. But it's here, feeling a little unnerved, he has to ask himself, what is this guy's morals? Like, what does he want? He treats Misaki's life like a toy one minute, but then saves a bunch of kids the next minute. As he says, I can't figure him out. I cannot guess what he's thinking. As he says, I'm telling you, Clarissa, this guy's the type of monster you'd better steer clear of. And it's here as we see events play out like they did before. We are back up to present time. And it's here after seeing that Masaki's okay, Polka asks himself, what would it take to find peace here? But that's quite a tricky question, as Clarissa asks him, what exactly does peace mean to you? As she says, for the peace that I recommend, you'll need some money, baby. We need some cold, hard cash. As she asks him, what do you want? What's your goal in this city? As he tells her, I don't know the first thing about this place. But if I'm really the only necromancer here, then I'd like to use my magic to earn some money. I want power and a place to belong, so I can live in more perfectly undisturbed peace than anyone else. And after hearing that, Clarissa jumps on the opportunity as she says, in that case, why don't you lend me a hand? As she introduces herself as Lisa Karaki, an intermediary here in Shinjuku. And since you've come from very far away, allow me to be your bridge in this city. I'll even assign people to help you adjust to life here. As she says, Masaki and Takumi. And as you would think, they're both like, wait, what? Wait, excuse me? And on that note, our episode ends. And man, guys, like I was saying, this show did not take a turn that I thought it would, but I'm here for it. This is really feeling like Durarara now, and I really like that. I really like that a lot. And this kind of makes sense in a way, because as I was saying earlier, the corpse god, believe it or not from his name, is really not a terrible person. He just wants to live a quiet life on his own since he can't die by normal means. He wants to be by himself. And every time he has been nice and showed compassion to people, it blows up in his face and it just turns out to be terrible, as we saw earlier in our episode. So this is just quite interesting, a true fish out of water story we got here. And I just want to say, Clarissa seems like the type of woman I certainly wouldn't want to be on the bad side of. She is shady as hell. But I'm actually really looking forward to the next episode to see where we go from here. This show has been a blast, and I'm having a great time doing it for you guys. So I hope you guys are enjoying it too. So let me know down below if that's the case. But man, until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys in the next video coming your way soon. I want to talk about Heavenly Delusion again, guys. I think it's about time. So until then, deuces.